Yeah. Hi guys, welcome back. And in today's video, we are going to be discussing about the hospital space. Clearly, when I talk about hospital space, we are going to be discussing about the large cap hospital space. Okay. So in large cap hospital, we'll be covering Max Hospital, Max Healthcare Institute, Apollo Hospital, and Narayana Hrudayalaya, right? And one thing I think right off the bat, by thinking, by looking at the large cap hospital, you understand that it's here. The main problem over here for most of the hospital is the growth rate, right? When you talk about growth rate, the growth rate is usually in the range of high single digit or mid double digit, right? Mid teens, you can call it. Now the reason is, of course, right, because large cap hai, base bhi itna bada ho chuka hai ki like it becomes very difficult to grow at this base. So the fact that they're able to clock only is kind of a huge deal, right? Like, just to give you a rough estimate over here, if you look at the likes of smaller hospitals that we have, or at least the new age IPO companies that has come right over the last 1 to 1.5 years, such as GPT Healthcare, Jupiter Lifeline, Yatharth Hospital and Trauma Care, and there's another one, right? I think Medanta Global Health. So all of them have bed range somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000, right? That is that is the range that they fall in, the beds. Whereas if you see the likes of Max Healthcare, the likes of Apollo has around 9,000 beds. So you can just imagine the base that is there. Even Max Healthcare also has around 3,900 to 4,000 beds. That's roughly like 2x the size of the small hospitals that are there, or 2x the number of beds of small hospitals that are there, right? So here a bit here, what happens is growing here becomes a problem only because only because of your large base that exists. Okay, so what we'll do today is we will discuss everybody's con call as well as the result highlight in detail. We will start off with Max Healthcare Institute. Okay, so Max Healthcare Institute, if just again right off the bat, if I had to tell you, out of the 3 hospitals, if I had to choose one in the large cap space, it would be Max, because this is the only hospital that among the 3 large cap hospitals you see has the highest of the sales growth. And not just that, it is doing unbelievable capex like anybody, like none. I'm still in the call. Yeah, so it is doing unbelievable capex like none other. So let's just talk about the result right off the bat, right? So if you look at the result, आपका sales जो है that has grown by 17% on a Q4 basis, and if you look from a year-on-year basis, that is full year FY23 versus FY24, it has been around 18%. Now, if you look at the PAT has been a bit flat in terms, if you both in terms of Q4 on Q4, a little bit degrowth in PAT on terms of year-on-year. Now, this is because I will get to this later in detail. If you look at the expansion that they are doing, right, Max Healthcare Institute, they are planning to double the bed capacity in a period of 4 to 5 years. Okay, right now they have around 3,900 to 4,000 beds, right? That is the bed capacity that they have, and they're planning to double this in the span of 4 to 5 years with a combination of course, greenfield and brownfield capex. Now, when you're doing so much capex, and you all know, right, any hospital that you have to do, it is very a capital intensive project, right? And even after it is done, you will have a lot of expenses, because no hospital becomes break even like this, right? It takes 2 to 3 years. Sometimes, it depends on the kind of hospital that you have. Minimum it takes 2 to 3 years, or sometimes it can even take 1 year to break even. So as a result, your operational cost is upfront, right? And that is why you see, because they've done a lot of capex and everything, you're seeing as a result PAT is a little bit flat in terms over here. And the other thing is, of course, now Q4 is very seasonal. The best is Q2 for hospitals. Q4 is not that great. There is a seasonal aspect that comes over here. So combined all the factors is why you see that the PAT is not doing, the PAT is flat. Okay, now let's talk about the average. That is when you talk about the hospital KPIs that you see, whether it is the occupancy, whether it is the ARPOB, right? If you see, the occupancy is at around 75%, which is the highest compared to all the other 3, the likes of other 3 hospitals that are there. What I'm talking about is Narayana Hrudayalaya and Apollo Hospital. You see that Max has the highest occupancy. Okay. Here also, again, if you see that occupied beds may, if you look on a QOQ basis or on a year-on-year basis, occupancy has hardly grown by 1%, and QOQ basis may, it has hardly grown by 3%. Okay. Now, one of the reasons why is because a lot of the some of the hospitals are undergoing the capex, so they didn't have that. A lot of them were not operational, so little bit admissions were affected because of that, right? And the other reason also was, of course, footfall was impacted, like I told you, capacity constraint thoda tha, because of which you're seeing hardly 1% ka growth. But other than that, there has been no problem. Okay. Then when you talk about this average revenue per occupied bed, if you see, that has grown by 10% on a year-on-year basis and 2% agar aap QQ basis, right? And average aapka agar ARPOB dekhte ho, it is around 78,100, which is the highest, right? Because and see, ARPOB is also a function of a lot of things. One is if you have a way more super specialty ka mix, your ARPOB is higher because cancer treatments, transplant treatment is way more expensive than, let's say, your general medicine ka treatment. That is number one. And the other thing is you need to have a payer mix. If you have more payer mix coming from cash and insurance, again your ARPOB will be higher, right? Because cash may you can readily take a price hike, right, on a year-on-year basis or whenever you like. You are the master of it. Similarly, in insurance also, you get a little bit lesser than cash. But again, having said that, your payment gets divided once in 2 years or 3 years, depending on who your insurer is, right? As a result, ARPOB is a combination of these two things. Here also, if you see, the reason for this 10% growth on a year-on-year basis is because, one, the super specialty mix, like I told you, oncology hai, neurology hai, cardiac sciences, that is there. All of them, the portion of revenue coming from these three categories has increased. That is number one. And the other thing is jo tariff hum lete hai, which is your price hike hum lete hai, that is also increased on all parameters, whether it is cash mein, whether it is in the corporate level, or whether it is in your insurance level. So all of these also. Now, one of the interesting thing, like I told you with Max, is the fact that they're doing tremendous amount of capex compared to anybody else, right? Just to give you, like I told you, they have 4,000 beds and they want to double the bed capacity. I will just open my PPT and show you, so it literally makes sense. Mm. Wait, let me just share. It's the same PPT, which is the investor deck that we have, right? Because there are a lot of things they're doing, like they're planning to double the bed capacity. I think I'm sharing my screen. Yeah. So first of all, like I told you, can you see that the highest amount of ARPOB compared to any other hospital, whether it is also it is the highest, right? Yeah. Now let us. Yeah, this is they have. One is in Dwarka. They have. I don't know why it is not mentioned here. There is another hospital in Dwarka coming up with. Okay. So first of all, combination of both greenfield as well as brownfield capex. Okay, अगर आप देखते हो here नानावती में they're adding 241 beds and this is like a phased project. मतलब सब अगर आप hospital में देखते हो, because it is it is not possible to add like 500 beds, इतना beds and all, and again the expense goes up. A lot of hospitals क्या करते हैं, they do like phase wise capex. शायद phase में एक 250 beds लगाएगा, phase में some other capex. So here can you see this is one capex that they're doing. These are all greenfield capex where in Nanavati they're putting up 241 beds and it will be scheduled by Q4 of this year. It will be done. Now you can see here in the in Saket also they are putting up Max Smart, Vikrant, and Saket Eastern. Now here is the thing. Here earlier this Max Smart hospital was supposed to be done in FY27. Like the entire project was supposed to be completed in FY27, but they're preponing the project and they'll be finishing it by Q1 FY26. The reason is because earlier they thought they will put up 2 huge facilities in Max Smart and one small facility in Max Vikrant. Now they've shifted that हम लोग एक facility Max Smart में डालेंगे and 2 facility in Vikrant, and that is why you're seeing like already this was delayed actually by some time, but now they are preponing it and they're adding here also. Can you see here again 375 beds and 415 beds. Okay. After that, in Mohali also they're adding 155 beds. As you can see, this will also be completed in Q1 FY26. In Gurugram also they're adding 525 beds, which will be completed in Q2 FY26. Okay. And then in this Patparganj, they're adding another 250 beds in phase 1 and it will be completed. Okay, so all of these are their greenfield capex that they are doing, right? So this is one part, right? And here again, after phase 1, again phase in many of these things. So one thing you can see in the next 2 years, we are going to see a lot of facilities come up for Max Healthcare, right? But either it will be in FY FY25 or FY26. Some will be in FY25, some will be in FY26. And most of this will break even in 1 or 2 years. That is what the management is telling. So the future growth that will, because all of these are right now at 0% occupancy. So as the occupancy increases here, that is the companies. Other than that, they have done some brownfield expansion also. If you see, they have done 2 brownfield expansions. I think in Q4 only, around that is when they've done these 3 months last. Okay. They have acquired one hospital in Lucknow and another hospital in Nagpur, right? So this is a 550 bedded hospital that you can see here. After the acquisition also, yeah, this was actually, if you look at the acquisition they've done via the debt, they've taken 600 crores and they've also done a QIP. So combination of both this has been done. Here, one interesting thing about this hospital in Lucknow is they are first, whatever the hospital space is there, they'll be using that, right? Other than that, they will add another 140 beds. Other than this, also another 140 beds they'll add. And it will be completed by Q3 FY25. After this, another block in the next year, I think in FY26, I'm not sure exactly the date, FY26 or FY27, they will add another block or another tower where they will have 350 beds. Uske baad they will add another tower with 150 beds. So really, you know, like it's a very massive capex, you can tell. This is another one. Nagpur ka jo hai, even here also this was financed through a mix of both the internal cash that was available and of course the QIP. Here also the same thing, they have done a brownfield expansion, and whatever the beds they have, they will add another, I think 140 beds in around Q4 FY27, right? You can see here, yeah, Q4 FY20, yeah, 140 beds by Q4 FY27. So now hopefully you are able to understand the mammoth of capex that I was talking about since the first, when I started this, the huge amount of capex that these people are doing. Another thing I forgot to mention is about Lucknow. They've acquired a brownfield expansion, and in that only they're adding more and more number of beds as the year passes by. Other than that, also in Lucknow only they have purchased a huge land. I do not remember the exact land parcel that they have. I don't remember the square feet or how many acres of land it is, but they purchased a land. Now you might wonder, like, dude, first of all, you're having this Lucknow ka ek bada hospital, and on top of that, you're adding so many beds over here. Plus, you acquired another land over here to start a greenfield expansion. So what is the craze, right? Because if you look at Lucknow, Lucknow has a lot of surrounding areas, right, where there are not such great infrastructure. Especially if you look at Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh, there is not a lot of great infrastructure. Usually, people go and they should go to these medical colleges and a lot of government hospital. So there has been a lot of pent-up demand over here. That is one reason. The second is the people in Bihar, the people in Nepal are come here for treatments. So they see a huge amount of scope. And of course, one of the things that the management is betting on is the fact that UP could be a 1 trillion economy. Now, we do not know when it will be a 1 trillion economy, whether it is in 27, 28 or 29. But the fact that the development over here in this state is happening at a very fast pace is the reason they want to be here. And actually, if you see, I think Medanta is also present in Lucknow, and they are doing a brownfield expansion. I do not know if Faridabad comes in Uttar Pradesh, because Yatharth has a hospital in Faridabad. Even they were talking about, how there is lack of infrastructure over there, and that is why they're going, they see a demand over there. So I've seen many hospitals in especially the small hospitals that are there. They're eyeing Lucknow, Indore, and Uttar Pradesh. So probably if you are someone from in this area, you will be able to help me understand better, because I've never been to these places. Like, is it really like you see that there is a lack of infrastructure over here, and that is why the demand that is there so much. So that's that about Max Healthcare. You can see, right, on all parameters, this is the only company in the large cap space where it is not only growing but also doing tremendous amount of capex over here, right? And trying to increase their base, trying to do something new that the other people are not doing. The other thing here to mention, last thing I will tell you with Max Healthcare, is in terms of valuation, right? Because I understand over here the market cap is very huge. I think around 90,000 crores odd, I think in that range. And also the PE is also very high. Even if you take a 20% growth rate in PAT going forward from the FY24 ka base and divided by the market cap that you have, even then I think your PE ka range comes between 65 to 70, right? Let's just take like 20 to 25% ka PAT growth, it still comes. So it's difficult, probably a little bit difficult to get a PE re-rating, but the fact that there is growth, the fact that they're doing capex, and all of these capex will be operational from FY25, FY26, and they will add on to the occupancy and will further on contribute to the growth. It is something that I think you shouldn't ignore. But other than that, if you see, like I told you, if you like put me keep a gun on my head and ask me to choose like one large cap hospital, it would definitely be Max Healthcare Institute. Like just just amazed at what they're doing at when they are operating at such a large scale, right? So that's that about Max Healthcare. The second one is about Apollo hospitals. Okay, so here Apollo hospitals also. The growth rate has been around 14 to 15%. Pact mein utna kuch, there hasn't been a lot of growth, right? If they, I'm talking on a consolidated level, but if you take, I think PBT or something, there has been a huge like 76% growth in Pact. That is because of this Ind AS calculation. There has been that mishap because of that, right? But if you take excluding of all of those things, Pact also has not seen a huge amount of growth. It's somewhat flat, right? Here also now, like I told you, the fact that they're doing 14 to 15% ka growth rate is quite good because they have a huge base, right? 9,500 beds they are managing, like total beds that they have, right? So the fact that 15% growth rate is actually great. Other than that, if you look at the hospital metrics, again, the same story. Hospital metrics is 65% if you talk about the occupancy in Q4. And if you talk about the RPOB is around 59,000. So if you compare it with Max, let's compare all the parameters. Max has higher growth rate compared to Apollo, right? 15% versus 18%. Let's talk about your occupancy. Apollo का occupancy 65%, Max का occupancy कितना था 75%. ठीक है, so literally 10 points more. Then we talk about the RPOB. RPOB is also huge gap we see. Apollo ka hai is around 59,523, and if you look at Max was around I think 75,100 odd, right? So you can see in all parameters again Max wins the points. Now talking about capex, again Max wins over here because Max is planning to do, like I told you, 4,000 beds, double the bed capacity in the span of 4 to 5 years, whereas Apollo is not having like a lot of huge capex coming up. What they have is like a very, very small capex where they're doing some brownfield, increasing the capacity, some greenfield, but nothing like a massive capex like Max Healthcare. Now, if you look at Apollo ka entire revenue, they have three segments. One is the hospital segment, like I told you, which I compared it with Max, right? Then we have the diagnostic and retail health, right? When I talk about diagnostic and retail health is, of course, like where you go get the test done, whether it is your sugar ka test, XYZ ka test, you get the point what diagnostics is. Other than that, they have clinics also. See, now Apollo has understood the fact that you have to construct a hospital, you need this huge land, you need a huge land parcel and everything, or you have to do a brownfield like acquisition. But they are there already nook and corner of every country. So what they're doing is in every chota gali mein if they go, you can see one small Apollo clinic. Okay, they franchise this part out to people, and you have this Apollo dental clinic, Apollo sugar clinic, Apollo ortho clinic, right? So this way what happens, they're able to be there in T3, T4 cities, they're able to be there in the small localites, and from there they're able to funnel sales to the main hospital, right? If something is getting very serious, they're not able to treat it, they will funnel the sales to the Apollo hospital. So this is another part. This is again like Apollo dental hai, Apollo sugar hai. I think a lot of y'all would have come across, right? So this is one part of the revenue. And the third part is your this one, which is your digital health and pharmacy distribution. When I talk about pharmacies, of course, you will see that Apollo ka pharmacy everywhere. I think they have around 6,000 outlets. Other than that, you will see they have their app right now, Apollo ka app, where also you can contact the doctors and everything. So all of these three are the different sources of revenue. I'm not going into the other two in detail because it is still a work in progress. The still major chunk of the revenue is coming from hospital. Similarly with Max Healthcare also, if you see, they have different sources, right? Like one is the hospital, which is the main source. Then is a clinic. Then they have Max Home, where you give this, certain times the old age people, they can't come to the hospital and get a treatment, or there will be, where there is this facility right now where we give treatments at home. You can get a hospital set up at home only, right? Especially if you're having some like a very serious ailment, right, where it needs constant care. So that is also there, and they have, of course, their own diagnostic also. Now I didn't go into Max Home and that thing in detail because, like I told you, it is a very small part of revenue again compared to the hospital. I think out of 1,200 crores, Max Home is contributing 45 to 50 crores. So I didn't feel it was that important to like check on that, because major growth abhi bhi jo maine bola aapko, you saw it is coming from hospitals. Capex bhi hospital mein hi ho raha hai. So that is where I wanted to focus on. Okay. Now coming back to Apollo over here, Apollo में भी वही है कि like the fact that you saw that hospitals में we didn't see that much of an improvement. अगर आप देखते हो वो growth भी है, that 14 to 15% का growth that you see, most of them is coming from RPOB, increase in RPOB, and and all of them this year, if you look at any hospitals, whether it is small cap hospital ya chota wala, chota ya bada hospital, a lot of them have got revision or revision with the insurance people, right? Or they have got empanelment with the new insurance people. So as a result, ARPOB growth has increased, and because of that only you're seeing the growth even in terms of your top line also. So that's the same thing. I do not want to discuss further in detail because there is nothing much to discuss over here. Yeah, that's that with Apollo. अगर आप नारायण हृदयालय को देखते हैं, the last hospital that we see, again the same thing with Narayana Hrudayalaya. Narayana Hrudayalaya has two components, right? One is the hospital, which is the Indian operation hospitals that you see in Bangalore, Calcutta, Jaipur, and other things. And then we have the Cayman Island, which is an international operations. They went and acquired it long time back, and that is also another part, right? Now here with Narayana Hrudayalaya, you see it is a least growing. The lowest growth you can see among the entire hospital space, like at least these three if I have to compare. I think Fortis is the lowest, probably 7% growth. Yeah, so again, let us just do the P2P over here only. We have Apollo, we have Max, and we have, okay, let's do Ulta. We have Max, Apollo, and we have, what is this? Narayana Hrudayalaya, right? Let's talk about the sales growth. Sales growth was 17% over here, 15%, and Narayana Hrudayalaya is 9.1%. Let's talk about the PAT. PAT more or less is flat for most people. Wouldn't talk about it. Let's talk about the ARPOB. ARPOB is also here also, right? 75,000. Here it was 60,000, 59,000 odd. Narayana Hrudayalaya ka ARPOB, let me get the estimate how much it was. Because they have different ARPOBs in terms of Indian operations as well as ARPOB is around 1 lakh. I think 1,23,000. I'm not able to get it, but I'll write it in the description box, right? So in all parameters, again, you see that Max Healthcare wins compared to the other two players that are there. Now, let me talk about the Narayana Hrudayalaya in detail. I will highlight the two most important categories. One is the Indian operations. Over the period of time, we've seen that the growth rate that is there for Narayana Hrudayalaya has been slowing down. Why? Because if the Indian operations, if you see, earlier it used to grow at 40 to 50%. Now, in this year, in this quarter especially, the Indian hospitals that are there, the growth rate has been hardly at around 5.1%. The reason is because the management believes that like, last year we compare, we had a huge base because of COVID, right? And now it is not really right to compare because of that. इसलिए हमें ये छोटा growth दिख रहा है. But I find it little bit sleazy in terms of that, because even all the other hospitals are also still operating in India, and you never see them complaining about high base or about COVID also, right? So that is a bit of turn off, like 5.1% on Indian operation, and you're blaming it on high base and COVID. Then we have the Cayman Island cooperation, right? Cayman Island cooperation, where you'll see that ARPOB has come down, right? ARPOB has come down from I think 33,000 USD to around 29,000 USD. Okay, here unka कहना है कि like do not compare it on QOQ terms. You think about long term, and that is what we've been hearing for a very long time, right? And Cayman ka ek aur capex hai, which will be operational in July, like this July, probably the next month it will be operational, and we'll have to see how it changes, because still now it's very difficult to get an idea like what is the geography over there, what is the kind of case mix we see, and everything, right? Whereas Indian operation may a lot of it, it's not, we don't really see a growth rate, we don't really see any kind of new things happening over here, right? Other than that, if you see capex ke baare mein, if I have to talk about Narayana Hrudayalaya, all their capex that are there is greenfield capex that they're doing, majority of it, okay? And they're planning to spend around 1,000 crores in putting up this greenfield capex. They have acquired this land parcel in Bangalore, and they've also, I think, around 3 lakh square feet, and also in Calcutta near Rajarhat, they're putting up this. And there is no fixed date as to like when this capex will come up and what are the number of beds that we'll see. Only the land has been acquired, and I think still also right now they're going through some that process of clearance, and there is no clear cut plan as to like what is the kind of bed capacity we will see, when it will be operational, at which phase, and of course also as to like when it will break even EBITDA margin. It will roughly take I think 2 to 3 years for both Rajarhat as well as the Bangalore capacity to come up, because with the existing capacity that they have, they're able to clock around single digit to like mid-teens digit. So they need these two capacities to come up and to add and to fuel the growth, right? And this is what we see, and it will take time. Of course, said, with hospitals, again, once you construct it, it takes a lot of time to break even and everything. So Narayana becomes a little bit less interesting compared to the likes of Max Healthcare, and then Apollo, and this one, and later this comes, right? Also over here, I understand the base is big and everything, but still, if you compare, Max has a higher base. It's like around 90,000 crore ka market cap, whereas Narayana Hrudayalaya is around 35,000, right? So the fact that Max is able to pull off such thing at such a high base and compared to Narayana is, I would rather, like, I mean, again, no buy or sell recommendation, but although I think the fact that you have growth rate, the fact that, see, with hospital, you need a combination of both. You need to have good growth as well as capex, so that you can go forward and add for future growth also. Because ultimately, if you have even 100 beds, it is not possible for you to get 100% occupancy, because there are certain beds reserved for certain only. Like, you'll have 75 beds probably, for general purpose, and you'll have 25 beds that are reserved for ICU. Now let's say there are 100 patients coming for general treatment. You can't still give them the 25 beds now, which are there for ICU. So that becomes a very tricky thing with the entire hospital space, right? What we saw in COVID was, of course, once in a lifetime phenomenon. I mean, we probably will never see that kind of occupancy and all again. So that's the thing. So like, if you do the P2P, and if you see in the entire large cap hospital space, like, I'm reiterating the fact that, right, Max followed by Narayana Hrudayalaya, sorry, Max followed by Apollo, followed by Narayana Hrudayalaya. After all, like, in all of the three, I wouldn't consider Narayana, but with the first two, definitely the PE rating becomes a bit tough over here. You have a little bit of growth rate, of course, but PE rating becomes tough. But I think with Max going forward, at least, because of the kind of capex that they do, there is still a chance, there is still a hope that they can do far better than what they are being doing right now. Because I think FY25 end and FY26 is really going to be a game changer for them, depending on if all the capex that they have planned, if it gets operational and it gets break even really fast, right? So that's that about the entire hospital space. I think by now I've really covered, I've covered small cap, I think 4 to 5, and large cap in 3. And I'm wrapping this space up. I'll have to, like, catch up with the other spaces. Like, yeah, I have a lot more spaces to catch up. So yeah, that's it today for the entire hospital space. I'll see you tomorrow with another company and another space. Until then, take care. Bye.